What the f are you doing here? Ask a question, jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
You might want to give him his 2-week notice.
Jamari, all you guys are cornballs for never pointing this out. This is the goofiest essay stuff that, like, if this was any other job and this happened to him, he would legitimately...
Ruslan.
George Janko, the fallout with Logan Paul, the podcast, all of it finally kind of coming out in the open and hitting the fan. If you guys didn't know, George Janko was the third chair on Logan Paul's Impaulsive podcast. He was the outspoken Christian guy. I always appreciated his takes, but, you know, some people didn't. And apparently this is all starting to kind of come out in the tension and the fallout in their relationship. And so I wanted to check this out. George Janko, maybe I'll get a chance to have a conversation with him. We've been friendly over social media. I don't know him very well, but it seems like he's really doing his best to pursue Jesus in the entertainment industry. Okay, so let's check out this clip from SunnyV2. All right.
On episode 351 of the Impaulsive podcast, Bobby Lee made one single joke which completely wrecked the relationship between the three hosts Logan, Mike, and most notably George.
Okay, just heads up.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
Explicit.
Yes, I did hear George Janko's Christian rap song. It was heat. Okay, so just heads up, there might be some profanity on this, all right?
He's not coming back? Is he really mad? Oh, I know beef with a guy? I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong.
This man with the Bobby Lee is such a goober, man, with the nails painted and the open relationship. What people always leave out is that 30 minutes before this, Bobby Lee was trying to get George Janko to touch his testicles. Folks, no, I have not seen one single person who does these videos, and it's not a diss to Sunny V, point out the fact that Bobby Lee basically committed essay against George Janko. Like, that's
Darkness.
So anyway.
Context, Logan and Mike created the podcast back in late 2018, and it's safe to say that these two have always had excellent chemistry. Their personalities work well together, they seem to be pretty good friends, and generally speaking, they exhibit a similar level of status. Keeping a permanent third host, on the other hand, has proven much more difficult. The first 150 episodes featured a third host named Spencer, who eventually left the podcast to move to Hawaii, after which the role went to Logan's childhood friend Mac, who'd then also leave after getting into a fight with Mike over their difference in interests. On episode 219 in September 2020, the next and most recent third host was announced as George Janko,
Introducing the third co-host of Impaulsive, my best friend, George Janko.
who was certainly different to the previous two. George was introduced as a more emotional counterpart to Logan and Mike, as he had a reputation for wearing his heart on his sleeve, while Logan and Mike were almost the exact opposite. In addition to this, George was a devout Christian, with discussion about his own spirituality, adding another layer of contrast to what had previously been a non-religious show.
I mean, I think it's a beautiful combination. I think it was a beautiful combination. I think if Jake could have just extended a bit more tolerance and empathy for the Christian guy, I think it was a good combination. I think it was interesting to see that dynamic. I think if anything, George was always on the outs in those conversations.
Outside of Impaulsive, George practiced the art of stand-up comedy, although it'd be through comedy that he'd eventually meet his ruin. One thing was glaringly obvious from George's very first appearance. He simply wasn't on the same level as Logan and Mike. Logan has succeeded with everything from vlogs to Prime, while Mike has overcome his own set of challenges and has proven himself as a fantastic interviewer who meshes well with almost every guest on the show. George, on the other hand, has always felt a little too much like, well, just another guy who Logan met at the gym.
Logan.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I met him at a gym.
George never had the chance to refine his interviewing skills to the same degree as Logan and Mike, which is only accentuated by his seating position to the right of the guest, making it much harder for George to engage in the conversation. The obvious imbalance between George, Logan, Mike, and usually the guest as well, leaves George with a needy personality and an overpowering desire for approval, leading to over-the-top questions and comments, often producing a clunky viewing experience.
Sheesh, man. Listen, I didn't watch that many episodes, but was it really that bad? I got a bias for George, too. I'm not going to lie to you guys. George is the homie. I like George. George loved Jesus. How can you not like George? But is this true? Was it that bad?
I need to know more about you. Like, how did you figure out that, like, this entertainment world was your calling?
That's what I was going to say.
I said it, so...
But I was going to say...
No, but I said it.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
I was already funnier than the kids around me, so I was like, I can tell the joke that they're going to make fun of me, but even better. And I made it about myself.
So I was like making fun of myself, like really self-deprecating myself.
Generally speaking, George's attitude wasn't severe enough to upset any of the guests. However, on episode 346 with Shaquille O'Neal, George was slapped in the face with a bit of a reality check.
Oh, no.
For the first 11 minutes of the podcast, George didn't say a single word, leading Shaq to confront him about his lack of input.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question? Oh, damn.
He waits. He likes to wait until he's got the... Bro, listen, man, I read the Bible line when they talk about David and Goliath. I've never seen a giant, and so like I'm literally just, I'm a little taken.
You've been sitting over here for 30 minutes and that's all you can freaking say? Fucking kidding me. That's a question. Jeez.
I'm just sitting,
Yo, Shaq was kind of a jerk for this, but I'd probably be nervous interviewing Shaq too. This is Shaq. This is Shazam. Shaq was the man, bro. I mean, I'd be a little starstruck sitting next to Shaq too, especially in that awkward of a position. But yeah, that was a little awkward.
Are you drunk?
I have one question. Is there any chance I can, for 2 seconds, put these up so I can hear what's going on?
Take them off. You don't have to ask
no.
me, sir. Just take things off.
Okay.
After making the excuse that he couldn't hear due to his headphones, George sat quietly for another 11 minutes, after which he was scolded again.
What the are you doing here? Ask a question. Jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
You might want to give him his 2-week notice. That's the question, dude.
Honestly,
jeez. You're just sitting here like a bobblehead going.
Yeah. No, I'm so
question.
sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you because I
go
couldn't
ahead.
hear, but...
Go ahead.
And it's safe to say that this put a permanent dent in George's confidence. He'd already joked about how difficult it was to be the third host in the past.
It's hard to be the third person on a podcast. We
wouldn't
two
say.
very vocal main hosts.
And after the Shaquille O'Neal episode, it was obvious that George's confidence had fallen off a cliff.
And then recently I've been just getting really nervous that I'm not doing well enough in the podcast anymore.
Only 5 episodes after Shaq roasted George, Bobby Lee would join the show for Impulsive 3.
Oh wow, that was very early. I didn't realize that was so close together.
351, during which one single joke would send the show into turmoil. The episode began with Bobby taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
You have everything. Cool friends.
So
you
this-
have cool friends like this guy? What about him?
Yet things became a little more contentious when George took it from fun to borderline aggressive.
Some people just don't like sucking. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa!
Before displaying more arrogance just a few minutes later.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing George's clear insecurity, Bobby began to roast George whenever he got the opportunity.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on a 2.5-minute monologue about the struggles he faced in his life.
And I don't mean this in a cocky way, but like, dude, this put me on a very strong map. And it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm
It's
very
like that's-
blessed, but I didn't know I was going to be here. So
It's
for
like
me-
that's... You done? It was a long monologue.
He was just waiting.
And let me just say something. I love what you were saying. It was very long.
That's usually.
But you know, I got what you're saying, and you really inspired me, George.
Come on. But SunnyV2, you can't leave out the fact that this man, Bobby Lee, asked him to smell his testicles and all that weird stuff. Y'all got to do better, man. All you video essay. I haven't seen one person mention that part of the internet. Should I pull it up? I don't want to do your work for you, Sunny V, but y'all got to stop.
And can I say something?
First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Do not touch
my
me.
bad. Yeah, we just need writers to edit that down. Like if we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, yeah, we'll cut that. But
I'm sorry.
essentially, it was a really good monologue.
Usually when I do my comedy, I don't have writers in the room. I actually write my own stuff.
Okay, I can tell. Maybe you should get a writer. But my point is...
For the rest of the podcast, George went into his own little world, except for when Bobby got his attention just so he could roast him again.
All right, George.
So sad.
What I'm saying is that when we were talking, we were for that 30 minutes.
Eventually leading George to walk off the podcast, get in.
Okay, I don't want to do this, but we got to do it. We got to do it. Yo, Sunny V, Jamari, all you guys are cornballs for never pointing this out. This is the goofiest essay stuff that, like, if this was any other job and this happened to him, he would legitimately... Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here. All right? Peace. Have a case, okay? So, hide your kids, hide your wife. This is what happened about 30 minutes before he walked off the set.
Oh shit, he really, his ass is out.
Look at the tattoo.
All the money and,
got a tattoo.
and you're using fruit.
I feel like you got that in prison.
Yeah, I did.
Dude, I just got the biggest for some reason.
Smell this part. Smell this part. No, smell. You got to smell it.
I just waft it, bro.
Dude,
Just waft.
dude, this is not gay. It's podcasting. It's for entertainment.
It's
And if-
material.
And in improv, you never disagree. You always agree.
Yes and.
Because
Yes and.
and you ruin the fucking moment if you don't do it. So you're gonna fucking smell, and it's not.
It's material, George.
This is mad sus, bro.
Yeah. So here,
And then he
I have to grab
grabs
your
his,
head.
No.
It smells good. It smells good.
Just smell it.
He's right. It smells like.
Does it really?
Like
Does
what?
it really?
Like
It smelled like he sprayed it like 2 days.
Okay, so you guys got to stop leaving this out. Y'all got to stop leaving this out. If that's not SA, I don't know what is. If that's not workplace harassment, I don't know what is. Stop dragging George and leaving out stuff like that.
An Uber and leave without saying goodbye. The episode
I would leave too. I would have left right then and there.
received comments such as, "It's impossible to call yourself a comedian if you can't handle being slaughtered by other comedians."
Like when you can't handle being assaulted by weirdos like Bobby Lee, get out of here.
Especially the Captain Bob himself. George tells everyone he's going to be the best comedian alive, but he can't take a joke from the legendary Bobby Lee. It's like a badge of honor. How does he think most comedians communicate with each other? I've always thought George thinks he's funnier than he really is. And when people roast him, he gets super butthurt like this generation. Things became worse for George after this video by Jamari gained well over 1 million views, leading George to address the criticism in the following episode of Impulsive by arrogantly stating that he enjoyed all the hatred.
I love that people were just commenting and getting so steamed. It made me realize like, oh, I really don't care. I want it. I want to be in their heads more. Like, I like it.
Love how George is trying to act like he's not heard about this when he had to leave the pod because Bobby Lee, out of all people, almost made him cry. Dude is a clown. A week after George responded, Logan appeared on Bobby Lee's podcast, Tiger Belly, where Bobby took a moment to talk about George's behavior.
What he did was unprofessional. I was a guest. He walked.
Bobby Lee, come on. I think I am the only YouTuber that has pointed out the utter goofiness. The other goofiness in what Bobby Lee did and how unprofessional he is. But shout out to Karis K. Don't force your religion on us. Don't force your religion on us. You're unprofessional. Ugh. But you got your out in front of dude's face. Talking about, come on, bro.
That's goofy.
You guys got to do better with these video essays.
Out on a guest. If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
Before roasting him yet again.
If you had walked out, right, it would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
Bobby and Logan then decided that they should get George on a call.
Can you give me his number?
You want to settle this right now?
Yeah, I'm going to call him right now.
Leading Bobby and George to fix their relationship.
I want to apologize for my behavior on your podcast.
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest.
I want to pull back my apology then. Because I too, because I literally did not feel sorry. I pulled out of the apology. I don't feel sorry, but I will accept yours, right? And hopefully, you know, when I come back to your podcast, we can make it right.
However, it was obvious that the whole thing had caused a serious fracture between George and Logan, becoming most obvious when they get into an almost hour-long argument, only 5 episodes after the Bobby Lee podcast.
I know people that hate me, that treat me better about my faith than you, and you're my best friend. One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you,
No, you
which
didn't.
is true.
No, you didn't. I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't. What do I need a therapist for then?
Jesus isn't doing it for you. And I
what do I
believe
need a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as emotionally mature as you could be.
I'm not emotionally intelligent. Could you pick a time and frame any day of our life?
Here's one. 3 weeks ago when you were sitting in that chair, you stormed off this exact podcast because you're upset about something a comedian said.
Logan did apologize in their very next episode together.
My attitude towards you on that episode and my belittlement of your beliefs was not appropriate at all.
However, George seemed to realize that his days on Impulsive were numbered, as he'd create his own podcast before clickbaiting the first episode with the title, Why George Janko is Not on Impulsive, implying that he'd left the group. George used the video to explain that this hadn't really happened.
Obviously, I'm still on Impulsive, guys. For any of you guys that are like, oh, their beef situation, and now he's starting his own like lane.
Even going so far as to say their relationship was as good as ever.
Me, Logan, and Mike are in a perfect place.
Yet it was obvious that this clickbait video had annoyed Logan.
I'm just doing this for a couple weeks so then I could leave and clickbait that why I left Impulsive.
That's good. It's a good strategy.
That'll crush.
It's been done. It's been done many times, and it works.
By who? Oh.
Well, you can make a real living for yourself, you know? We've seen the model.
Resulting in more and more uncomfortable moments on the podcast.
You don't give a shit about this show anymore, let's be honest. It's like bands that hate each other that have to get on stage every night and play for the audience. So like, yo, let's do our hit song. We don't like we have to sit
That's
here
not true.
and pretend
That's not
to be
true. I
friends.
like Mike. George,
Well, he's about to
You
redeem
don't
it.
say.
He's about to.
Only 3 episodes after comparing themselves to a band forced to play together, George disappeared from the show without warning, leading fans to speculate on whether or not he'd been booted. Mike refused to elaborate on the situation when asked by Aiden Ross.
Why is Georgie not in Impulsive anymore? Is that like you don't answer that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Although only 1 month later on an episode of Jeff FM with Mike and Tanner Mojo, Tanner accidentally said this.
We are the new Impulsive. I'm sorry.
We are. It's fine.
Y'all are having like a rebrand, like George is leaving. Like this is it.
At around the same point in time, George unfollowed both Logan and Mike on Instagram, which was followed by Impulsive changing their profile picture from this to this. As well as
they cropped him out of the photo. Oh. They did the crop. No.
Banner from this to this.
They could have just made a new banner without him. They didn't have to take him out of the banner.
All of this had happened silently with no input from the hosts. However, on the 26th of April 2023, George would post to Twitter, "I wasn't going to talk, but now I am," implying that some pretty heavy stuff had gone down behind the scenes. Replies on the post encouraged George to keep the drama private, yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month later, another tweet was made stating, "To the Impaulsive fans, I'm so sorry I can't speak about things, not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them talking it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment," confirming that he was no longer on the podcast. The post received replies slamming George such as, "Mate, you sat there not speaking for 90% of the time. What are we missing? Your silence?" To which he'd respond by stating, "You think I wanted to be quiet, ha ha ha." Yet this kind of statement is representative of why he's unsuitable for the podcast. He cares way too much about how other people view him. If you're the type of person who gets...
I mean, this is Hollywood. This is entertainment. You don't think all these guys care about how other people view them?
Defensive and feels like you always have to be in the right, you're probably better suited to a Facebook comment section and not a career on YouTube. Despite this, George has seen some success with the George Janko show, yet Logan hasn't been able to resist roasting George's low view count.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like
Since then, George has stated that he simply wants to distance himself from Mike and Logan.
I'm at a point right now where I want distance from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on.
Which seems to be the best possible outcome for everybody involved.
Oh man, that's brutal. That is brutal. That is brutal. I'm glad George is off the show. I'm glad George is doing his own pod. I've been liking his pod. I've actually been supporting him on Patreon. And so yeah, geez. That's hard. That is hard. All right. Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.